Okay, so we're moving on in history. Remember I said a couple days ago, by the way,
Hey,
welcome to the Whiskey Vault.
we're
You just walked in on a conversation Rex and I were having about whiskey.
Rex and Daniel.
We regularly just stand around talking about really nerdy facts about whiskey. It's one of Rex's favorite things to do.
So you know,
Unlike the character he plays on TV.
you know what the issue is?
What?
Because I am capable of listening. Deep well of knowledge here. But
I beg to differ.
here's the thing. When I am on when I'm on the show, the Whiskey Vault in particular, and you're going on about stuff, me looking like I'm listening. That's what I'm.
That takes effort.
That takes effort. Because when
So
I'm
if you can just sit there and
if I
stare
wasn't
at
on
the
a show,
floor.
no, yes, that's how I listen. That's how I listen. I looks like I'm sulking and I'm pounding. If I'm actually listening to you,
Yeah, because you're making eye contact. You're not listening anymore. Now you're distracted by person.
No, I'm doing.
No.
Yeah.
I've had to talk to my wife for a decade about how, look, if I'm not looking at you, that you're getting my undivided attention.
Oh
Whereas
my god! I hope my wife isn't watching this episode.
if I'm looking at you,
We had this exact conversation.
if I'm looking at you, I have no idea what you're saying.
Yes.
You will get done. I'll have made eye contact, and
Right.
you go, right, babe? And I'll go, I have no idea what you just said.
No.
But if I'm looking away, I'm hearing you.
I'm hearing you, and that's just bad. That's not good for the show.
Yeah.
So
Anyway, so here's the thing.
there's whiskey involved in this somewhere.
A few episodes back, I said one of my favorite things in history is to look at something that was happening in Scotland,
Yeah.
and then look at the date, go over to America, see what was happening around that time in America.
Yes.
So yesterday we were in Scotland during the origins of when malt whiskey became legal in the Highlands to actually have a license, 1820s. That's the wrong list.
I'm trying to find a happy medium between actually listening and looking like I'm listening.
Okay. Well, just actually listen. See how that works. Let's see how it looks on camera.
Really?
later. Yeah.
All right. Well, this is me. So from this point on,
Actively listening.
actively listening.
Okay, so 1823 was when it becomes legal in the Highlands. So 1821 in America is the first mention of bourbon whiskey as a type of whiskey in America.
Okay.
In a newspaper. So right around the time that Highland whiskey became legal, it was the first time we hear about the bourbon whiskey as a thing in America. Now it was being made before that, right? And then in 1823, James Crowe essentially creates bourbon as we know it, with a consistent process, sour mash, distillation restrictions, and aging in charred oak.
Okay.
At that point, and not at 1823, but between 1823 and 1840s, James Crowe perfects the process that basically ends up creating bourbon as we know and enjoy to this day.
Okay, so you're starting with the Highland Scotch thing as a reference point for this window
At this
of time.
point in history, Highland malt becomes legal,
right.
and in America, bourbon is being created in the drink that we now drink.
Okay, so there's things
Right.
happening across the pond at the
Right.
same time, independent of each other in a lot of ways,
Yes.
but still worth mentioning.
Now, in 1853, David Beam's son, becomes distiller at the Old Tub Distillery. Mm-hmm. And in 1864, he has a son, and he names that son Jim Beam. Right? And now, this is from the Beam Distillery, and it's a callback to the origins of the Beam family distilling history.
So is this Daddy Beam?
This is Granddaddy Beam.
Granddaddy Beam.
Granddaddy Beam.
All right.
Maybe Daddy Beam. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, this is a bottled in bond, if I'm not mistaken. So it means it's at minimum 4 years old. Mm-hmm. Yep. It is 4 years.
So how is this different from just your standard Jim Beam?
Well, for one, it's a selected, bottled in bond has all these other restrictions, like distilled inside a season, only from one master distiller, at least 4 years old, blah, blah, blah. And they hand-selected these casks to create the flavor profile of Old Tub in order to...
So
It's only available at the distillery, as my understanding.
So Jim Beam
Not
hand-selected
from a store.
Jim Beam casks.
Yeah, they selected things for this Old Tub release.
So this is basically a version of Jim Beam selected.
Now, I'll show you.
the special
Let's get
bottling.
the Jim Beam.
Yeah.
Okay.
You College Man 93. We got College Man 93. Whiskey failures. I thought I'd throw something out there, just wondering what your greatest whiskey failures are. I've just gone over the 1 year mark of drinking whiskey. Thank you to Daniel and the other guy for allowing me to step into this realm. I'm excited to see where this journey takes me. Wonder why you chose that comment.
I don't know. Actually, I really did choose it because I was interested to know, what would you classify as a whiskey failure? Forget snobbery. What would you classify as a whiskey failure?
A whiskey failure. I know whiskey episode failures.
Yeah.
We've done like To date, we've done 2 episodes where we shot the full episode.
I thought there was 3, but I know at least 2.
No, the original Hot Toddy episode we did like well over almost 2 years ago. That was just flat and boring. And then we did more recently an episode about sherry cask whiskeys. And it's just flat and boring. That's a whiskey episode failure. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to think of one. You guys put in the comments if you can think of a whiskey failure. But nose on this old tub.
Okay, and then this is the Jim Beam. Well, I mean, you can definitely tell they're related. The old tub has a bit more dark sherry.
Yeah, and there's a lot more brown sugar and wood spice even in the nose on the 4-year-old, ironically. And the classic Beam, it's brighter and shinier. A little more...
Wait a minute, what'd you pour in this?
This is this.
It's changing up.
Yeah.
Yeah, the old tub.
This is thin and a little brittle.
I haven't tried the regular Jim Beam yet. The old tub, though, I'm starting to get a much more of a cherry-sweetened, honey, rich note that I wasn't getting before. It was a little bit of that...
Man, that's good.
Yeah, it is.
It's slightly oaky.
You gotta live with it for a little while.
Yeah. Gotta let it...
For the nicer flavors to reveal themselves.
Try this because I want to try the single barrel Jim Beam, which is a higher proof in 1 barrel. And maybe the single barrel Jim Beam could be the closest you'll get to the old tub if you can't make it to the distillery to get a glass.
So the Jim Beam's perfectly nice, but that old tub has a lot more character in there. More richness and depth to the flavors.
What I'm trying to find is, how do you get to try old tub if you can't make it to the distillery?
Very similar whiskeys, but this is basically a little bit more concentrated, rich, vibrant.
There's a rounder, slight soapier note. And soapy is wrong. I don't really mean soap tasting. I mean that clean, fresh, you just bathed your child, right? Has that soapy skin smell.
Yeah.
Smell that and think that. You see what I mean?
Yeah, a little bit.
Soap might be the wrong word, though. Okay, that's closer. It's still not quite the same, but it's much closer than this one. So if you want to get closer to the old tub, it's not as densely dark sweet. This is a more vanilla sweet. This is more of a brown sugar sweet.
Brown sugar
and that cherry,
the darkened honey, and a lot of it probably comes down to the proof.
Yeah.
Jim Beam, that's a 40%, obviously. This is rocking the 50%, and you can tell there's some more depth to the flavors.
Let's add a little water to it, and I'm going to give you some more history clarity of what was actually going down. So here's the cool things. In this range between early 1800s and like the 1850s...
I'm listening again.
...is when almost every major development, like there's like a 50 to 60 year range where the majority of the whiskey development on what we now drink all happened. From aging in oak barrels to charred casks to sour mash process to the Lincoln County process to the coffees still, the column still is invented. Right. So all of these things are happening. 1826, one small little fly in the ointment shows up. The American Temperance Society is founded. Wait, you need a little water. 1826, we also get the first mention of a charred oak barrel in a letter in Kentucky from a grocer.
Okay.
And then around the same time, 1831, something new and exciting happens, which is in Ireland.
In sync.
Aeneas Coffee invents the coffee, or
the column
perfects the column still, a coffee still at the time from something that Robert Stein had created, and that changes everything. That absolutely changes everything, and that's going to be what we're talking about tomorrow.
I don't like it with water.
Spoiler alert.
It adds another layer of just some...
It brought the wood bitterness.
It does. It gets more bitter. It gets more bitey.
I like that more, so I'm going to give you the original back.
I don't like the oak bitter.
The oak bitter made this more interesting to me.
No, man, it had at 50%. There's enough. I mean, it was classic bourbon notes. But there was enough richness to those classic bourbon flavors that I was digging it. The water just made it much more harsh.
Yeah, it brought the oils to the surface, and the oils brought some of the wood notes to the surface.
We got Moppy Ploppy from the subreddit. Your most interesting, surprising whiskey initiation.
Oh, yeah.
Involving a spanking.
Yeah, read his... which one was that? Down here?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
You ready?
Read that story. It's a long story, but I think... I'm curious... as to how many times our lessons on how to introduce people to whiskey have come apart at the seams and surprised you? Like, because I will give a tour in the office, or Zach will give a tour,
Right.
and the people who gravitate to certain whiskeys are regularly surprising.
Yeah.
Like, they'll not like all the pretty ones, and then I'll pour them the one that I'm pretty sure is going to make them gag, and they're like, well, why didn't you start with this?
Right.
I'm like, what? How? Yeah.
You've had nothing but wine coolers and white wine your whole life.
Yeah.
And now you want to get...
Now you want Springbank cask strength. That doesn't make any sense.
Your most interesting, surprising whiskey initiation. A few weeks ago, we had some other friends, a husband and a wife, over for dinner. The husband sort of likes whiskey, but mainly rum and beer and wine, and the wife likes wine and beer. All my friends know that I'm a whiskey guy, so he looks over at my bar and starts asking questions. I just picked up a bottle of Ardbeg Ugdal and was excited to try, so I poured myself some and was thinking, should I pour him some blackened American? He likes mixing Jameson, maybe go Redbreast, or Monkey Shoulder and tiptoe into Scotch.
I like where his head's at.
Yeah.
He's trying to think of the best experience for his guest.
Absolutely. I decided, what the hell, let's see if this Ardbeg sticks. If anything, if nothing else, what the hell is this? Face will be priceless. And I passed him my Glencairn of Ugdal.
So he's also shenanigan worthy.
He sniffed, his eyes lit up. Not the, oh my god, this stuff is awful lit up, but the, daddy like it lit up. He takes a sip and, well, jumps straight into the deep end. This was his very first Scotch, let alone an Islay, and he absolutely loved it.
Wow.
Said his favorite smell ever is a campfire, and Islay tastes like one.
Yeah, that's true.
I get that.
So
Yeah.
that's pretty surprising.
Yeah.
And I've been through that identical journey more times than I could possibly count. And I would say it's about a 70-30. About 70% of the time, the typical entry gates are the right way to go. And then about 30% of the time, somebody catches you off guard.
Here's the fighting, stealing, and drinking.
If you fight, may you fight for a friend.
If you steal, may you steal a lover's heart.
And if you drink, may you drink with us.
Hey, thanks for hanging out with us in the Whiskey Vault. Don't forget to throw in a like, hit that subscribe button on the bottom right, and drop a question or comment down below.